I heard that you were offered a very interesting trade while you were down there.
Ah, yes.
We bought the cheapest four-wheeler on Amazon, the cheapest turbo from Amazon. So I think the unanimous vote. Welcome to the Sent and Bent podcast. Ethan just got back from the biggest off-road race in the world, and while he was doing that, the three of us did kind of the opposite of that. So we're going to get to that. And in the last episode, we mentioned to you guys of Will's mustache of responsibility, and Instagram polls have been made, YouTube polls have been made. At the end of this podcast, we're going to decide if Will gets to keep it or not.
Wow, that one sounds way more aggressive than the last one we used on the podcast.
The votes are in. What is the fate of Will's mustache?
Exactly. That's going to be the end of the podcast. So I guess, does Ethan want to go first on the off-road event, or do you want to know what mayhem induced while you were gone?
Well, yeah, sure. We'll start with the updates on King of the Hammers.
What is King of the Hammers for the good people?
Let's start with that. That's a great idea. So
I was there for like 3 days and I still have no idea what it is.
You were there for like half a day.
Oh, it felt like 3 months.
So King of the Hammers is known as the most difficult single day off-road race in the world. I forget, I don't actually know exactly how many miles it is, but you have to do 3 laps of the course, and there's everything from 100-mile-an-hour desert sections with whoops to like some of the largest, gnarliest rock sections you can imagine. So the cars have to be good at everything, and the drivers have to be good at driving in all sorts of different terrains. And they race everything from side-by-sides to full-on what they call Ultra 4 cars, which are four-wheel drive, unlimited class cars that have, 1,000 horsepower and 44-inch tires and all the good stuff. Before we got there this year, they have other events too. They do King of the Motos, which is the same course but on dirt bikes, which is gnarly because those rock courses are huge.
I didn't realize they actually did the exact same course.
Well, I don't know if it's the exact same course, but it's largely every class has a slightly different course options, and there's also different ways you can do it. Like, there are bypasses for certain things, but you lose points, or rather gain time. You get time penalties for like not doing the gnarly stuff. And there's certain things you absolutely have to do, but
that'd be kind of fun on a bike, honestly.
No, it'd be miserable.
I think it would be cool on like a bigger bike. I don't know what they do it in. Like
450s.
Like 450s.
Okay, or 300s, whatever. Because you have to be able to do rocks. We're talking like rocks bigger than this table. You have to go over, around, and through.
It would be a challenge. Yes, that's for sure.
It would be extremely challenging.
Those guys are built different.
They are built different.
From the people I talked to that watched it, they said it was kind of not that exciting to watch because it was just a lot of dudes carrying bikes up cliffs, basically.
That's not
for
fun.
the parts you could see. The rest of it's really high speed stuff, which would be cool. But like it's such a huge race that it's really hard to see much of it because it's.
How long is the race?
I don't remember how many miles it is. We'd have to look that up. But I think it's like a couple hundred miles.
Okay, I was going to say, last time we were there, just looking at it from the little mountain we climbed, it was like, it was so big.
Yeah, it's huge. And, more importantly, in terms of what the event is like, there are around 80,000 people camped out on a lake bed every year. And that's, spectators and racers and everybody included. But it's such an unfathomable number of people. If you climb a mountain and look down, during the day you can see that everything's RVs, but it still looks like a city. At night, you really just can't be convinced that it's not a city because it's just so many lights, and it's just like, wow, that's a nice city down there. And then by this time next week, there'll be just desert, not a single structure.
Nothing.
And they put up one of the food trucks there wasn't a food truck. They built a house. Basically, they built a permanent plywood and like framed structure for one of the food stands.
Wow,
it's like the Coachella of rednecks.
Yep, it's it wasn't the whole event, but I heard a great description of what like at night. So during the day the race happens, and then at night it gets rowdy, and everybody just brings out their own personal vehicles and just rips up these trails. And the really hard obstacles are where it gets really crazy because you got thousands of people watching everybody just break their trucks on these giant obstacles.
Was it as crazy as when we went, like people launching fireworks?
No, it was actually a fair bit more chill this time.
Really?
There was still the fireworks, but it was much more respectful. Like, I didn't see anyone throwing beers at the at the cars that were stuck. Like it seemed like everybody kind of was there to have a good time and not like beat each other up maybe.
Wow.
Maybe just right after the pandemic, there's a lot of pent
yes,
up
I
emotion.
bet. I think that's
we were
exactly
there for the heart of it.
Yep. I think that's
Yeah.
exactly what
Weren't we
happened.
at the like first event
Yes,
that
after,
happened
after COVID. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. Somebody described that experience at night as like, as a redneck coliseum, which I thought was a great description of it because it's like these trucks are like running a gauntlet up through this just massive crowd of people and everybody's just cheering. Like the stoke when somebody makes it up the obstacle after trying for like 10 minutes, the whole crowd is just like, yeah. It was awesome to go with. I went with Clinton from Dirt Garage. We've had him on the podcast and done a lot of stuff with him over the years. He was filming for us, and it was great to have him there because he loves King of the Hammers. Like he's stoked about it. He knows all about the drivers and the history and all of that. So that was cool. And I don't know. For me, I just like any kind of racing, and it's just cool to be around the race environment and see all the race cars and how much effort all the teams are putting into doing such an insane
you're obsessed
event.
with suspension.
Yes.
And that is like
That's the whole
Exactly.
event.
that's the holy grail of suspension like on the planet
It
probably.
is. Yeah, no, absolutely. Because like it's a constant battle there between like solid axle cars and IFS cars because like the IFS cars are incredibly good in the desert. And granted, they've been winning a lot for at least the last 4 years in a row has been an IFS car that won. Because they're just so much better at going fast. But yeah, it's like the suspension there. Yeah, I mean, that was one of my favorite things there is just going around looking at all the race cars and seeing the insane suspension setups they have. But yeah, it's really cool. And even the solid axle cars, it's very impressive how smooth they've gotten them. And that's all the suspension stuff. Like they just have so much money in suspension there and so much time in tuning that suspension and setting it up. It's just really cool to see. So yeah, that's kind of the highlight for me. I mean, like that and ripping around the Colonel. I mean, we took the Colonel, the 6x6 K truck, and the chopper just for show.
It was a squad.
It was a squad. Yeah. We had a trailer full of goodness, but just being able to that's the most seat time I've ever really had in the Colonel, like back to back, because I ripped it around every day we were there. We were there for basically a whole week, and it didn't break, which is kind of new.
Yeah.
We finally got like good axles in it and some other stuff dialed out, and it just is so good. Like that is where that thing was built for, is desert. It's just like a mini Ultra 4 car, and it just rips out there.
I heard that you were offered a very interesting trade while you were down there.
Ah, yes. So there's a man who owns a company called Laser Nut, and he bought a big chunk of property right like basically in Hammertown, and he built a place that he calls Laser Town. And there, we got invited there because we had the K truck, and he also has a K truck, so to speak. And he invited us there for a meetup with a bunch of other K trucks. So all the K trucks of Hammertown all trundled across the desert.
That's so
to
sick.
Laser Town. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. And then we just all met up, and they were all super different. Like there was a couple of stock ones. There was one that had been like lifted, but on the original suspension, and just like lifted and lengthened the rear axle pushed back, and like it was all like Mad Max looking. It had 3 mufflers, one for each cylinder sticking out the side.
Nice.
But yeah, so Cody has been trying to buy one of our Power Wheels for a long time, and he really, really wants one. But we're not going to sell them because we keep making videos with them, and there's too much sentimental value, and we don't have time to build more, right? Or replicas. Like we can't build an extra one for him. So anyway, we were there, and he has what's known as Stomper, which was built by our friend Josh at Vague Industries, which is a K truck. Actually, it's exactly the same as ours. It's a Mitsubishi mini cab, and he put it on a custom chassis with 2 front ends from a Chevy pickup, like a 1-ton Chevy pickup, or 3/4 ton, I think. 2 front ends back to back. So it has 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steer, and then he slapped a twin turbo V8 in the middle of it just for good measure.
That's nice.
That thing is known as Stomper, and Cody bought it from Josh a while back. And when we rolled into Hammertown, he was driving that around, and I pulled up, and he's like, "I'll trade you."
Isn't that the car that Josh was hitting like insane G-forces?
Insane donuts.
Okay,
Yeah, insane.
Yeah.
That is by leaps and bounds the best offer we've ever had, because we get emails like, "Hey, I'll give you $5,000. It's like, okay, the engine without any work is worth $3,000.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it is the best offer we've had. And I did tell him, it's tempting. But at the end of the day, I can't, I don't know. If it was the Barbie camper, I'd be less attached to it. Like that one, it's cool, but I don't have nearly as much sentimental value.
That might be a good trade. That'd be hard to
camper,
say no to.
Yeah, right. like I like the camper, but I don't have the same attachment. It's not,
and we don't use it that much. Driving it isn't as fun.
No, it's just not. And so, we could probably hit him up and offer him that, and he'd probably take it. And then we'd have a twin turbo LS swap.
That would be a good one.
Maybe next year, King of the Hammers, we just. We get another year of content with it, and then we trade it.
That would make a great video too. If we just showed up, traded it, and then swapped. The thing is, though, Stomper also was built in a great big hurry. I mean, Josh is a great builder, but he didn't build it to be perfect. He built it to get it done and to make a statement, and it does make that statement. It's not janky. It's also just not refined. Yeah. So. That's part of why it's not a immediate yes for that. If it was
and part of you is probably well, I could probably just do it, but do it better and spend more time on it myself. Which that's kind of the fun of it for you. I mean, obviously driving these things is fun, but building it is and I think the problem solving is the fun part.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. For me, that's the building of it. And also if I was driving around KOH and Stomper and people were like, oh yeah, this thing's sick. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't build it. I would get no enjoyment out of that. Some people get the enjoyment out of everybody being like, wow, that's a cool car. But if I didn't build it, I just don't. It doesn't get me anything. I'm just like, yeah.
It's like you're taking credit for someone else's work.
Exactly, and I can't do that. So
you sold out a book, but it was ghost written, and you're like, what's that called? Imposter syndrome?
Yep.
That's actually just being an imposter, though. If you say it's your book and it was written by someone else.
Speaking of imposter syndrome, though, while we were there, we got invited to an event that Optima Batteries was doing, and I think it was kind of just a promo thing for them. But we got invited to go race on a lake bed with the Colonel, they invited us to bring whatever we wanted, but obviously the Colonel's the fastest thing we had there. And we got to race up against an actual monster truck, a trophy truck, an Ultra 4 truck, a rock crawler, a Porsche 911 Dakar edition.
Oh, I got goosebumps.
Yep.
Oh my God. I saw my first ever safari Porsche in Whitefish.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's my favorite car on the internet, but that was the first one I saw in person. I was like, and then Dakar one's probably just the coolest.
The Dakar edition, it's so cool,
Earth.
Yeah. And it is so fast.
All right. You're going to have to show me a picture of that anyway, but anyway.
Yeah, so we and raced all those guys, a bunch of side-by-sides, just a couple of Unimogs. They just set up every ridiculous car they could for this race.
Too bad we don't have ours still. That pink
I know.
van just going. Man, we should have kept it a van for one King of the Hammers.
We should
That'd
have,
be hilarious.
Yeah, that would have been really good. Anyway, so that race was super cool. The Colonel obviously is not built for top speed, and we've never tuned it properly. So I didn't win anything, but it was super fun just ripping across that lake bed. It's the first time I've ever been able to actually just full throttle top it out. I hit 72 miles an hour, which is not as fast as the Barbie Jeep, but I was on dirt with very low tire pressure and a really bad tune on the engine. So I think it's got 100 in it. It just needs a retune.
Man, that thing would be scary.
Oh yeah, 100%. After feeling what 70 feels like, I was like, oh yeah, 100 would be no problem.
Really?
Yeah, 70 was just chilling.
Because we've talked about it before.
Yeah, and I thought it was sketchy. Yeah.
But I guess that's just where it's meant to be.
It is where it's meant to be, yeah.
Is it pretty flat?
The lake bed? Oh, yeah, it was perfectly flat. Yeah.
I was going to say, one little bump at 70 could hit different.
I did hit some bumps, but, doesn't feel it.
They didn't hit different?
They did not hit different.
Nice.
I didn't even feel them. There's a video of the rock crawler guy that I was racing. He actually races KOH too, but he was in his crawler, not his race car, because he didn't want to blow it up before the race.
True.
But I was racing right next to him, and he has an in-camera shot from his GoPro of me next to him, and you see him hit this little ditch, maybe 2-3 inches across or deep in the middle of the desert, and you see him go Kadoog! Violent bounce, and I go over it right behind him, and you can't even tell that I hit it. I just
wow,
flat right across it. But yeah,
did you beat anything out there in the race?
I beat a UTV that's built by Robbie Gordon. So
wow, that's something.
Robbie Gordon has a brand of UTV called Speed UTV. He built his own company. He wanted to build his own, and it was very slow. So I beat that, but that's the only thing I really beat because.
Did you not race against the Unimogs?
Well, yeah, okay, yes, I built. I raced it.
I was gonna say,
I didn't even count
Ethan,
that.
if you didn't win against them,
I didn't even count against the Unimogs. But then, so the way they did it was they wanted to do 14 cars wide all at once across the desert, but it had rained, so there was a lake, so we only had room for 7 cars wide. So we did 7 slow cars, slow quote unquote. They just picked kind of vaguely, and then 7 fast cars versus each other, and then they divided those up into sets of 2 and then raced those against each other. So I was in the slow category first, which I was glad for. I didn't want to be next to the monster truck in the kernel. Like he can't. I'm like half the height of his tire.
How fast is the top speed of a monster truck? Because these things are just meant to like do wheelies
not
and
fast.
little jumps.
Not
right?
very fast at all.
So you probably could have beat the monster truck.
I could have, if I'd been in the same category with him, I totally would have absolutely destroyed it. Because he also blew out second gear. So he did first gear, went to shift, it blew out, and then he's just ring, ding, 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 going like 20 miles an hour. He hit 20 real quick, but after that, he was just like, burp, 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 burp. So that was unexciting, but it was cool. He then went and did some donuts and like jumped it, which was super cool.
That must be weird seeing an actual monster truck rally not in a monster jam.
It was so weird.
Like that never happens.
Yeah, it never does. And dude, we were so stoked. He was gonna drive it up Chocolate Thunder. Like one of them. He was, and we got some inside scoop that he was doing it. So we went out there, and a bunch of other people were waiting too, because like obviously if we got it, other people got that news.
Yeah.
He made it all the way out across the desert, burned an entire 15-gallon tank full of fuel to get there.
Oh my gosh.
And then we waited for like an hour for him to get refueled, and then somebody got worried about liability, and he didn't do it.
Somebody got worried about
liability
at King of the Hammers?
Exactly. Because there's spectators.
That's not the vibe I got there.
I know, but we were so stoked to watch this monster truck rally up Chocolate Thunder, and then he didn't do it.
Wow.
Like I talked to him later, the driver, and he super wanted to. He was like, dude, I really wanted to do it, but like they were trying to clear people off, and people just kept driving through again. And so he's like, I just couldn't risk running someone over.
You'd have to do it a day that it wasn't King of the Hammers.
Yeah. And so he really wanted to, but that would have been cool. We were stoked for that.
Because monster trucks aren't exactly the most bottom heavy vehicle.
Yeah. They're not known for being on 2 wheels on 4 wheels very often. They're either wheeling or in the air.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's so big, he probably would have made it up it, but it would have been really cool to watch. So.
Yeah.
that would have been
What would have
awesome.
happened if he didn't? Would it just go?
He probably would have tumbled backward, but he probably only would have flipped like once because it's not that steep overall for the size of his thing. Like if he flipped right on the obstacle, he probably would have like rolled onto his wheels or something.
How does one acquire a monster truck?
I don't know. He is the owner and driver of it. I didn't talk to him long enough to ask.
Is
him.
it like a monster jam?
Oh yeah, full on monster truck. I don't know how much he
Oh,
competes.
that would have been
It is
awesome.
100% as big and gnarly as all the other ones. Like
Whenever I see these guys' Instagrams, and you can tell it's like, because some of them are like big businesses and corporations that have
a lot of them, actually, most of them are owned by Monster Jam. The vast majority you see are all owned by Monster Jam.
Really?
That's as far as I understand.
One of them, the Toro guy, the Flaming Bull one.
Oh yeah.
He DM'd us saying that he wanted to like do some stuff.
So did the only female monster truck driver, Monster Jam driver.
It'd be cool to have monster truck drivers up here.
She wanted to come drive some stuff around, but then she realized she's like, I'm gonna be in your town. She meant our state, and she was entirely on the other end of the state.
Yeah, our state is quite large.
Pretty big.
It's very long, and we're at one end, and she was going to an event at the other. Anyway, yeah, monster trucks are cool. So that event was super cool because it was awesome to just have a place to rip full speed and hang out with all these pro drivers. Like bunch of drifters were there. So like Von Gittin Jr., Chris Forsberg those two were hosting the event, like being the on-camera hosts. Justin Pollock, I think, is another Formula D guy, and he was driving the Sierra car, electric one that our friend Ryan helped develop.
Oh, those are really cool.
Yeah, so he was driving that. I almost beat that in the drag race.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah.
How was your weekend, Will? It sounds pretty wild.
My weekend was really good. I took Friday off and I went down to Portland, Oregon, to this rave in like a little tiny restaurant.
Thursday night, he texts me. He's like, "Hey man, someone surprised me with a ticket to this underground rave." And I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, last time you did this, you almost didn't make it back.
It was
So
awesome,
I'm curious
though.
what happened this time.
I feel like I went with my friend Davey and my girlfriend Katie, and we went to this Chinese restaurant, and there's like tunnels in it with rave zones, and there's just like old people eating noodles up at the front. So you get in there and you're like, what the devil is going on right now?
Uh-huh.
And then you go down this tunnel, and there's just a big rave in a little room with like tables, and you can still eat noodles. It's really awesome. But yeah, that
sounds cool.
yeah, and it was like 60 degrees, sunny in Portland, so it was a really nice change of pace to our kind of like poopy rain weather outside.
It's been poopy all winter.
Yeah,
I left for King of the Hammers and it was winter here. I came back and it's spring.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just mud everywhere. Most of the snow's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. But I got recognized in a cloud of smoke. Someone was like, "I heard your voice." So I was like, "What does my voice sound like that is that distinct?" And they asked me, they're like, "Where's your phone?" And I was wearing rave pants, so I didn't have back phone pocket. But yeah, it was very interesting.
What kind of rave pants do you have?
Oh, I went thrift shopping in Portland, Oregon, because I showed up looking just like kind of grubby Will, and I was like, okay, I need some like crazy weird pants. And they have these awesome giant thrift stores in Portland because it's like the thing. And I got outfitted up. It was pretty premium. My friend Davey likes like wearing cloaks and robes and stuff around in public, so he's the perfect person to like go shopping at weird places.
I was
in
going to
Portland.
say, to set the scene for Davey, the last time I saw him, he was in like a pink fuzzy bathrobe in a restaurant.
Yeah, so we all had robes and we wore them the whole time we were in Oregon, except when we were at the rave because it was
Nice.
too hot. But yeah, it was a very extremely fun time. And then I came back from that and did like a 30-mile little motorcycle session with my friends because it was 50 degrees here and no rain or snow. It was nice.
Man.
So, but I did it in my helmet that I crashed in because Steven just got a motorcycle and I let him borrow my undamaged helmet. And so I went to pick up my helmet. I was like, oh man, this helmet is damaged, man.
You got to throw that away, dude.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not-
no, I keep it for memorabilia.
Yeah, but
like,
don't
oh, it's
wear
cracked.
it. I think
But
that alone would be enough to shave the mustache.
It was
wearing a
straight
broken helmet.
damaged, like fully damaged, and it was letting a lot of like wind noise in and stuff. And yeah, but I realized my new bike can hit 100 miles an hour in first gear. Theoretically, I'd imagine I didn't do that, but I would imagine that it could. So yeah, it was very fun. And then yeah, so very chill weekend, but very fun and lots of experiences. So.
One
Yeah.
thing
Can't
I
just say lots of experiences on a podcast, man.
Well, okay, I'm going to preface this when I say lots of experiences. Like, there's things in my day-to-day life that I can't tell people on the internet.
Oh.
And so things like that. And those are when I say lots of experiences, I'm just going to wink at these people and some of them will know and some of them won't know. But there was lots of experiences and it was all a good time. It was fun and pretty responsible too.
Well, you're back here in one piece, so I can't complain.
Yeah, and I didn't have any caffeine. I actually didn't drink any alcohol at the rave either. So
Nice.
That's very responsible.
yeah,
there
pretty
you go.
responsible if I say so myself.
Wow.
One thing I forgot to mention, the most important thing about King of the Hammers, I was saving it for last, is that Clinton and I did some looking around at the rules and regulations, and we did some thinking, and we decided that we need to race King of the Hammers in one of the military Humvees that we bought.
Yeah.
We can build it for the modified class and race King of the Hammers. We'd go for stock class, but it already comes with 37s, and the stock class is limited to 35-inch tires. So we're right out the gate out of that class.
But that means we can do a lot more with it,
Yes.
right?
It also means we get to put a different engine in it and way better shocks. Like, the modified class is pretty open. We basically just have to have a body that resembles the original body. It has to be a production vehicle that had at least 250 units sold to the public, which of course the military ones didn't, but the H1 is the same thing, and
Yeah.
they did. So,
Okay.
and then
It's probably
yeah.
the cheapest entry point you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we're going to put a lot
seriously.
of time and effort into making it actually good. But
And
yeah.
money.
Yeah, and money, for sure.
Yeah.
But
Did you see any racing?
Humvees?
Yeah.
No. As far
Really?
as I mean, I've never seen one race. I mean, I could look into it and see if one ever has, but There certainly weren't any there. There was a really cool one with rear steer in Hammertown though, so that was cool. But I just think it'd be fun. It's not going to win, certainly not in the modified class, because we're going to be up against the aforementioned Broncos.
Yeah, we probably need to make a special roll cage.
Oh yeah, I mean obviously
certain type.
There's just requirements on like how big of tubing you have to use and stuff, and like
so we'll just look into that when you're going to do it anyways. Might as well do it to spec.
Precisely, yeah. And then we need a lot of safety gear and stuff like that, but that's all stuff we'd want anyway if we're going to be racing. But the point is, it's a race that you can enter with just about any vehicle, and you don't have to race a whole series, right? Because like most kinds of racing, to get anywhere, you have to like qualify and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
King of the Hammers, you can just show up, and it's known as the most difficult single day off-road event or off-road race in the world. So like just finishing is a prestigious accomplishment.
Yeah.
So like the goal is to just build a Humvee that can survive King of the Hammers and then go race it and see what happens.
That would actually be pretty sweet.
That would be.
With,
and it'd be a challenge too.
We'd also finally achieve Edwin's original goal with Grindhard of having a race car that says Grindhard Plumbing Co. on the side of it. An actual race car.
That was the idea.
In an actual racing event.
Yeah. Also, all the fans, Grindhard fans that we've met and hung out with and talked to, I finally met one this weekend on the ski resort that got it. Because got the name.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it just confuses people normally.
It does, yes.
And like, oh, you must have been plumbers and then did YouTube and stuff, which we weren't. But the whole idea from the beginning was, wouldn't it be funny to have a bunch of race cars that had a plumbing company logo on it?
Nice.
That's awesome.
So Lane's been wearing his Grindhard shirt with our skull logo to the gym. And he was like, yeah, all these people come up to me and they're like, that is such a cool logo for a plumbing company.
That is awesome.
But so we were kind of talking about this and someone rolled up and he was like, oh yeah, like Grindhard Plumbing Co. Your cars look so cool because they're cool cars, but they say plumbing on them. And I was like, thank you. It's been 5 years talking to hundreds of fans, and you, my friend, got it.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So
nice.
There's one person out of 2 million that gets my joke.
I did have to explain it to many people at King of the Hammers.
That is the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, we could have never known how big it was going to become, but it seemed like a pretty funny idea at the time.
Right. But then 5 years later, when you've had to explain it 1,000 times, it's like, huh.
And we didn't really go in the race car direction like we thought we would either. So
not really. But we're going back now with a Humvee.
We're getting there.
Maybe.
It's just been a slow build.
Yep. Slow build. Yeah.
We have raced Power Wheels with our logo on it.
That's true.
So that's something nice.
Yep.
Our project, while you were gone, was, I mean, it looks like a smashing success now back there in the corner. We bought the cheapest four-wheeler on Amazon with the cheapest turbo from Amazon, with the cheapest oil cooler from Amazon, the cheapest oil reservoir from Amazon. You guys get the point. It's the cheapest turboed quad you could do.
And it's hot pink.
Yes.
Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice.
Classic. And we're really excited about it because we were watching a bunch of videos on like turboing small engines and like no one has really done it. It just never works.
Yeah.
And so there's like a handful of people who kind of have like engines that small. It's a 125cc, but it's, you could imagine for the cheapest on Amazon, it's like a horsepower. And this one might have been less.
Yeah. That is a hamster power
I was going to say it's like
there.
a gerbil power.
It is terrible.
It's less powerful than the cheapest chainsaw at Home Depot, for sure.
Yeah.
Most likely, yeah.
Rough. And so, but we were stoked because we were like, we're just going to, since normally we build everything from scratch. So like we're starting with a four-wheeler. All we need to do is turbo it. We're going to give it a full video's worth of time to make it work. And hopefully we can make it work. And it took a lot of struggle because when we went through like roller coasters, like you wouldn't believe last week.
Yeah.
It was like we opened it and we're like, oh, this thing is so premium. It's so nice.
And then we put it together, took it outside, and it had half a hamster horsepower, and it was so slow.
We were watching other people's videos like on X Pro is called. So we looked it up on YouTube to see if like anyone else, and it's these like children like not going very fast. And we were like, huh, like, because you hear a 125 4-stroke and it's like, okay, it's like a Grom. Like you can go 60 in a Grom.
Yeah.
But not all 125s are built the same.
No.
Not when you pay whatever $700 for the entire ATV.
Ours was built different. Like
You shouldn't be able to get an engine for $700, let alone the whole machine.
yeah. It was pretty bad.
I was kind of thinking for the next small turbo, we should just get a real pit bike, like a Honda 110 or a Cowie, and turbo that. Because then we'd actually be having horsepower to start with. And then it's still a small single-cylinder engine, and it'll still be the same size turbo, and it'll look and sound really cool. But maybe that is enough exhaust to really spoo it up. But
I mean, to be fair, we tried pretty hard with the Barbie car, which is a 230, and is an actually quite a solid engine that ran really good before we started. And I put a lot of time into that, and it still didn't really work.
We could have got it, though. We were getting there.
But like it did.
I just meant it's not that easy, no matter what engine you start with. That was the point there. Yeah. Anyway,
we'll talk about the extra finessing we did along the way, but the intro, we were so excited. We drove it. We like took off the spark arrestor. We're trying all these things to try to see. Like we're like, man, it just doesn't have any power at all. Like we'd line it up against the lathe here, go full throttle to the other side of the garage, and we're going like 3 by the time we got
it would
to that
take
side.
like a solid, like I could walk faster than how
it's
fast
slower
it was.
than a stock Chang Li.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't
open.
believe my
Truly
eyes.
dismal.
Yeah. And now it is faster, for sure. Like
you also put way smaller tires on it. So
yeah, but even with the
hearing.
tracks, like when we had tracks on, we've tried a couple iterations and it did go faster. I don't know if that's just and you can hear the turbo spooling, which is pretty sick. I don't even know if it's doing anything, but it's like, so it's pretty cool. But our first iteration, I built it like the turbo out the hood. Monster Subaru that I built.
Oh no.
Yeah. And there was so much piping going on, and we used a coolant pipe to like get the air from the turbo into the engine, and it would just like suck in and kill the
we're getting
engine,
a
like,
lot
right away.
of negative
Like
pressure
a
on the
lot
first
of
rendition.
negative pressure.
Yep. And then we realized that the gasket that came with the gasket kit covered half of the intake.
Nice.
Yeah,
the one that came with it. We just didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Will took it apart and he's like, that just should be working, man.
That's why it had so little power.
Yeah.
It had half an intake worth of air.
Yeah, it was really bad. But then Edwin also bought like this transfer pump for like pumping gasoline out of cars or something, I think.
Yeah.
And
Clinton looked at that pump when he was here before we left, and he's like, this is what they got for the turbo? He's like, this isn't going to work at all.
he said it wasn't going to flow enough.
Enough?
He couldn't have been
it was
further
the
from
exact opposite. Somehow it builds so much pressure that it was just blowing, and this was the oil situation.
Ah, yes.
Oh,
I would
man.
like turn it on for a second, and it would pressurize the oil tube so much that it would expand and like pop.
Yeah, it was like a water balloon of oil.
Yeah.
But when we ran it, it must have pressurized beyond the seals of the turbo
And just
so
shot
oil
out the
was just
turbo.
shooting everywhere. Every time we
Yeah.
started it, every time we drove it, just everything covered in oil the entire
My
time.
leg, because originally the turbo was pointed right at our knee, and it would shoot oil at your knee and just cover you fully with grease and oil all over you.
That's
We had all 3 fire extinguishers spread out throughout the garage the entire day because it was just.
I did see a fire extinguisher pin laying on the table
Yeah,
earlier.
it was
Yeah,
close.
I figured you
Yeah,
were
There's
prepared.
a few times where we were like, let's be really ready.
I actually can't believe we didn't have any fires
was
because
no
Will was
fire.
like using the torch near it and like, I'm like, Will, you're gonna light it on fire, man.
Yeah, and it was like full of like gasoline all over the place, like on it and like leaking out of it. It was so bad, and like the float bowl was like being taken off and on, so there was like a little gas on the floor.
From the factory, the carb came with seared off
Pins.
bolts. So they'd like screw it on and
yeah,
then sear off.
Sheared them off, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like yours seared off. It sounds
Seared
like
off.
kind
That
of like
sounds
a
like a steak.
craft.
Yeah, nice.
I seared the
seared.
pins up.
Yeah. I was surprised because I was like, wait, what? And so I went to the Grom. Same thing.
Sheared
and
bolts.
so I went to that other little 4-wheeler we bought.
Yep.
Same thing.
Yeah,
I'm
they
like-
just don't want you crafting.
Because you can't clean it. You can't change your jets. What's the point of that?
I don't know, man. So that you have to buy a new one when it breaks, I
Yeah,
guess.
probably.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the carburetor should be like, I mean, that's like the only thing you really need to maintain on something like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I think most people buying those wouldn't have the first idea of even how to take apart the carburetor. So like
And
making
everything
shear
else.
bolts on there does not even make sense.
Yeah.
It really
know.
doesn't.
Like
yeah.
maybe that's like a EPA thing. Like if you let more fuel in, then it could be less
I have no
environmentally
Well,
friendly.
things that small, I don't think even really like.
It came with so much EPA
Oh, did it?
documentation
Oh.
and
Yeah.
like exhaust ratings and like the most restrictive spark arrestor you will ever see.
It was a block. Like,
That does not surprise me. The spark arrestor situation.
I mean, it didn't make any more power when we moved it,
No.
but it was like a square piece of metal that just like stopped all flow from the exhaust.
yeah.
Well, don't just put it back. Put a little moisture on there.
Yeah, get a little sparkling water down there. So we'll save the conclusion for the video, but we had the most embarrassing live stream that you could ever imagine.
I did hear tell and see a few seconds of said live stream at King of the Hammers.
You know of the boo-boo I made during the whole situation?
Where you ran over the Starlink, basically?
That
No,
was
that
like
was a small
not even
boo-boo
close to how bad it got.
Okay, then I don't know if I...
We bought this big, complicated thing that's supposed to beam Wi-Fi to the garage, and we can't figure it out. So I was like, I have a better idea. So we set up your big ladder in the middle of the driveway,
Yep.
brought the Ethernet cord as far as we could go with one of our battery banks to plug in the router on top of the ladder. We've got the fire really hot and open the garage door
So that
we
we
have a
could
clear
beam it.
line
Yep.
from the router to the garage. So that's how we start live streaming in the first place. And the whole idea is we want ratings in the podcast. And this is still going on. I'm still getting back to everyone, and you can still DM us and we'll still respond. But the idea is you rate the Sent and Bent podcast 5 stars, send us a screenshot, and then we'll send you a voice message. And I was like, well, live stream to promote it. And the podcast had just gone live. And so we get, thousands of people doing this. And then I start to read the messages on the live stream because we're responding to people on the live stream, which was pretty cool. It was a pretty crafty idea, I think. And then the messages were saying, hey, man, the podcast doesn't have any audio on Spotify. Hey, man, the podcast doesn't have any audio on Apple Music. I uploaded a blank MP3 file for the podcast. And then
Nice.
did our first real promotion push for the podcast
That
ever.
didn't make
Promoted
exist.
a non-existent podcast.
Yeah.
Nice.
It got thousands of downloads, and it was literally nothing.
That is truly horrific.
And we've been waiting because we haven't really pushed the podcast yet because we want to get the format and the
Yeah.
audio. Like, we want to be really proud of the podcast before we promote it to like our audience at large. And this podcast I was so proud of. I was like, this is the one. Let's go. It's now or never. Like, this is pretty dang good. Like, we'll progressively get better. And it didn't even work. But I fixed it, and it was solved by the end of the live stream.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then, I ran over the ladder that was holding everything, and it all fell to the ground.
Yeah, I did
With
hear
the
that part.
turboed quad with tracks on it. In
Edwin
the dark.
was so stoked. He like went out there and he like jammed the little like piece of light that we had left from the fairing like on there, and immediately it fell off and started like bumping on the ground. And so he was riding
see
dark. He was like,
anything.
oh.
And you can't turn it because it has tracks on the back and little go-kart tires
Yeah,
on
so
the
it
front.
just would go
And it was
straight.
so muddy.
Why didn't you put skis on the front? I guess because there's
We just
mud.
didn't want
Yeah,
it.
right.
Yeah.
That
like
makes sense.
now, we would go off, but
Yeah.
it was dark
Yep,
and
yep.
we had just got it working, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to come in on Thursday because I had to edit the video.
Right.
So I was like, it's now or never. But it looks like you got a lot done on Thursday.
It's a lot better with those little tires. Let me tell you that.
We can leave it for the good people.
Mm-hmm.
But that's nice. And
That's,
I think Steven had a pretty interesting week too.
Honestly, none of that was surprising.
Oh,
That's pretty much.
We specifically
that's-
didn't tell you anything about it because it's like
yeah.
more fun to leave it up to your imagination about what
Yeah,
the Swindle
I mean,
brothers
really-
could possibly be doing.
Really, none of that is a surprise to
you
me.
got to imagine that it's
I am-
more done and better looking than you would have thought.
I am impressed that the that the turbo actually vaguely works. Like whether it makes any more power or not, I'm impressed that it at least makes turbo noises.
Yeah.
According to Will, I haven't heard these yet.
It
but-
does.
Yeah.
It
When it
does.
turns off, you can hear.
And that's with a very damaged turbo fin too.
Oh, dude.
Oh, man.
The amount of, I don't know how it got in there, but the amount of metal in like the whole system, there must have been metal somewhere because we opened the turbo up and there was just like jankery going on in there after like,
Nice.
The entire impeller is completely destroyed.
Yeah, it's
and
like,
it still
what-
kind of works.
yeah, it still
Cool.
kind of works
Well,
a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah,
I already
not
ordered a
surprised, but
replacement.
impressed that it kind of sort of works. That's pretty good.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
a kind of sort of impressed then.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
That's pretty good,
Nice,
honestly.
man.
Yeah.
I like that.
The aesthetics of it, I mean,
It's craft.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. It does look cool with the little bit of tires on it.
I mean, for 4 days of work.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah.
Well, I did hear you guys worked late a lot, so 4 days is not really a fair number.
Well,
if you add up all the extra hours, it's probably at least
we
like
worked till like
5 days.
6,
Yeah,
maybe 7 one
6.
night.
Yeah.
All right.
No biggie.
Anyway, what? Yeah. So, Steven, what's your situation?
I'm not sure what Ed's referring
He's
to.
probably
actually,
talking
'cause
about
I-
the fact that you bought a motorcycle.
Oh well, yeah.
Even
that
That
talked
wasn't
about it
this
for
weekend.
ago.
I finally got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a little Doodle Boy motorcycle.
I helped him pick it up. We loaded it
Yeah,
in the
that
truck.
was fun.
That was
actually,
fun.
yeah. Will and I just had a great time driving to Spokane, and
He
through it,
stepped
it's-
in human feces.
I did.
Oh, no.
yeah, that was
Yikes.
pretty bad. Oh man. Well, Will and I both had to use the bathroom so badly because we'd driven all the way there. We were like drinking tea and just like generally having a great time and whatever. And it's like, oh, we should just stop at one of these stores. Well, we're in like the crap part of Spokane where all the stores have like closed their public bathrooms. So finally I'd had enough and I'm like, I'm going to just go around back of this place and found a little dumpster. But you know, like when you need to go, you're not like looking at your surroundings.
Oh.
I saw my footprints through some, human feces on the way.
Yeah, I just
back
chose
there.
the
Nice.
public sidewalk style.
I know. Yeah. I was like, what happened to Will?
Sidewalk?
Yeah, dude, in
on
Spokane,
the
it's
sidewalk,
every
apparently.
man for himself. Like, I'm not gonna step in the poop back there. Like, he crafted like into this dingy like place. I was like, no way.
So you just squatted it out on the sidewalk?
Well, I mean,
he
I don't
peed on the
squat when
sidewalk.
I pee, but
Oh, no, I thought you meant you deuced on the
no,
sidewalk.
no, absolutely not. But
Oh my goodness.
Then that's what Steven stepped in. Jeez. Wow, this story gets really bad.
no, but
I'm glad I'm not eating
we were
anymore.
going to Safeway, right? That was the place.
Yeah, we were
And
at
they
Safeway.
didn't even have like
Safeways are normally pretty nice.
no, they didn't even have a bathroom for the employees. Like the employee was like, I go over to the store across the road, man.
What?
Yeah.
He did
How is
say
that
that.
even legal?
I don't know.
I don't think
There
it
was-
is. They must have had it out of order or something.
Yeah, it was really gone.
Yeah.
Like
Was there
crafted
just so
away.
many problems with theft or something?
No, they don't want people go into those bathrooms and do bad things, if you know what I mean. Like that's not a
Yeah,
good
well, now
place.
instead they just do the bad things behind the dumpsters.
Yeah.
I guess we're pretty sheltered here in our small little
Yeah.
Idaho town.
Spokane's been getting pretty craft, like pretty bad.
I like how while I was gone, the word craft went from being like used kind of vaguely in the context that it's supposed to now craft just means apparently everything.
Well, Will took it to a new level just today because I saw this man a couple days ago and this wasn't a full
Well, I
thing
spent like
yet.
a solid time with Davey, and we just started saying craft everything for like everything because Portland is really a craft location. Like if you know
Craft
what I mean.
brewery, craft
It's just
this.
craft everything. So like people just
But
craft houses
now
on the
you're
side of the road.
using craft in a really bad context.
Well, it really
which
depends.
used to
Like
be.
I could craft something badly, or it could craft it very nicely. You know.
Oh yes.
Wow.
So-
This is the first time we described a word on the podcast before it became pop culture
Yeah,
in our
it's-
business. I
Yeah.
think we are ready for something new, though. We're hitting a new wave of grind hard, I sense, in a lot of ways.
Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. This is actually the best part of King of the Hammers. I was walking down the line of side-by-sides as they were going through tech inspection, and this dude, like in one of the race side-by-sides, he's getting ready to go race. He's like, yo, Ethan, grind hard. He calls me over there, and he's like, you got to say it, man. Is this premium? I was like, yeah. He's like, look at these welds. Are these premium? And I was like, yeah, dude, those are very premium. And then I was like, hang on, do you want a sticker? So I went back to the truck and I got him a premium sticker and I put it right on his hood, right in front of where he sits. So the whole race he was looking at premium, and he could not have been more stoked.
That is awesome.
That's really
And
awesome.
when I was watching the race, I saw him go by, and I could see that premium sticker on his side by side.
That's free advertising, folks.
Yeah, that's
the premium
nice.
stickers are for sale at grindhardplumbingco.com.
And they'll make your side by side win King of the Hammers. No, actually, they won't. He didn't win, but it was pretty far back in everything. I mean,
well,
if you're
stickers
not,
are good for how many horsepower? There's a saying.
I don't know, like 5 usually.
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
10.
Usually
A
5.
premium one's probably 10.
We need to put a few on the pink quad.
Yeah.
But you know,
could
people
use
say
it.
people say that about cars when you're starting with numbers that are in the hundreds. So like 10 is like 5 to 10% horse, like maybe 5% gain. If you're putting on something that doesn't even have 10 horsepower, I think you'd be down to like a gain of like half a horsepower.
Well, we're measuring it in hamsters anyway.
Oh right,
so-
hamster
I
powers.
think
Yeah, 10
that,
hamster power.
I think that a dyno wouldn't even like
Register.
turn
It wouldn't even
on.
spin.
Yeah, it would just not.
Yeah,
even.
it probably actually couldn't rotate the.
The drums on the, dyno.
drum,
Yeah, no.
Quite possibly not. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, but
Anyway,
I think we're in a new era of grind hard for real.
in what way?
Every way.
I just mean what? Like, in what way are you referencing?
We're just the videos are better, the slang is better.
Yeah.
Like we're a unit the last couple months, more than usual, I would say. Like it's not like we were like shabby before. I just think that like I don't know. It's probably just the Monster Chopper series doing so well, and the 100-mile challenge video getting like 200 million view or 2 million views.
200 million.
200 million.
2
One
million
day.
views the next day, and like our Instagram is like blowing up. I think we're kind of like motivated to really like
Yeah.
step it up with all this extra attention. But I also think that like whenever we hit a new floor,
Yeah,
Like-
that's true.
we kind of just stay there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a lot more work to make our videos as nice as they have been. And like
Yeah.
the podcast as nice as it has been. But for some reason, hitting that new floor and those new ceilings just make it easier to be motivated
it's more
to
exciting.
do the
Yeah.
extra work,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah, and like I mean, it's been a long time since we've had a video that didn't hit 500,000 views in the first couple weeks, and that's a whole new level of yeah, like you said, the new floor. Like that's it is, and I mean that's the kind of stuff that makes me get motivated about like going and racing King of the Hammers, is because like it feels like
You know,
that's
it's
actually possible now.
We
Instead
talked
of
about it for so long.
like any kind of racing, we talked about all sorts of things,
And then we
It's
talk
like-
about how expensive it all is, and we're like, well, maybe someday.
Yeah.
But like after getting like a month like we just had, it's like,
Yep.
okay, like could probably actually do some of these things
Well,
we've been talking
yeah.
about, which is really exciting. Like even if you're working on a small project like the little turbo quad, it's like
building
I don't
to
know.
the big thing.
it just feels different knowing
Yeah.
you're like a part of something like that's
Yep.
going somewhere.
Going somewhere.
Well, and also the fact that like I mean the Chopper series is certainly an outlier, but the fact that all of our videos lately have been getting better views, even if they're not the most exciting, most ridiculous thing, gives me a lot of hope for like building, say, the Humvee for King of the Hammers, because that's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
Way more than a normal build to make it actually legal for racing.
Yeah.
And if people are willing to stick around and watch all of that series, that makes it so much more possible
Yeah.
to build it for. So that's another, it's
A
like,
big change I've noticed since we started doing all this. Well, like since Will and I started working, like a big goal was trying to get people to like watch the show for us.
Right.
And have the projects be like, obviously the thumbnails and get people to watch. But when you get people watching for like what our personalities are,
Yep.
then
The
we can
dynamics.
kind of do anything. And we can move a lot of different directions, which is kind of cool.
Yep. And then of course, it's like kind of what's the word for that? One of those things that just like, keeps building on itself.
Oh, snowball effect.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's not the term I was thinking of, but that totally works. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a snowball effect because, like once we are able to do more of kind of anything, then we're all having more fun doing that and not thinking, oh, we just have to do this because it's the only thing that's going to get views.
Yeah.
Then we're having more fun, and then we have a better vibe on camera, and then more people watch it, and then we can do even more of what we want to do. So it really is a win all around.
Compounding effect.
There you go.
Yeah,
that
the,
is
the grind hard
exactly.
snowball's been going off.
Yeah.
Steep hill with some nice powder recently.
If only we actually had some nice powder
I
recently.
know.
It did start
looks
snowing
like we're getting
right now.
something
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
not sticking, but it's probably sticking in the mountains.
It is, yeah.
That's what we call banana snow.
Is it because it's warm? Like where bananas grow?
I don't know. Bananas have always been like a very interesting craft kind of fruit. Like that is craft.
Is this craft like the mac and cheese? Because I could get on board with that being a bad
Well,
statement,
that's
but
what
that
you
stuff
should
is
envision in
jank.
your head when you look at something and you say that's craft, like in a bad way.
Craft
I
with a
also
K.
I haven't heard anyone say Shrek or Shrek all day.
You know, I didn't hear the word Shrek
I
for an
haven't,
entire
so-
week. It was marvelous.
Wow.
Shrek happened while you were gone.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, like serious oil Shreks. Honestly, I was like getting a little nervous. I was like, "There's so much oil here. Like, what am I gonna do, man?" And then I realized that like a little bit of degreaser actually makes it really drifty. So like we put some degreaser down, got it off, and then yeah.
wait, you're gonna have to break that
currently-
down for me.
Okay, well, like there was a serious amount of oil on the ground, man. Like I can't explain to you, like.
Well, I saw it even before I wasn't here for a day. And there
Like
was a serious
one
amount of
event,
oil.
one event happened, and I'll just explain it to you. Cause I'll give them a little insight because this is a very intense part of the video. But I was trying to like make everything look really clean and like nice and inside. You know how we had the oil pump on the outside and all that stuff?
Yeah.
It looked kind of jank.
We went for Mad Max in the
Yeah,
beginning.
and so
now
I
it's
was like,
more
I'm
a
going to
classy
refine
drift
this
car.
so it looks clean. And so I put your little pump in the inside of the frame, and you can turn on the pump. But once it's on, you cannot turn it off in
Oh,
the
no.
position I had it in. It's now since been adjusted, but I fully filled that water bottle full of oil.
I remember this moment.
And I was trying to get that tube to stay, so I like made a little extension, and it was like working. And I flipped that on, and it built so much pressure so fast that it blew the tube up like instantly, and just starts going chugga 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 chugga.
And Will
chugga.
couldn't turn
And
it
I'm
off.
like,
He's
I
like,
can't turn it off. I
"Wait,
can't turn it off. And there's just oil
It was actually just being
all over
pumped
me,
onto the ground, and
all
Will
over the ground.
Yeah, that's a 64-ounce bottle
Yeah,
plus whatever's
full of
in the
oil.
system.
And so I mean, as you can see, degreaser does a pretty good job.
You are currently on a pile of oil.
Yeah,
on the
that's
floor
just
from the
that's
same.
like from leaking off the project after that. But it was I was very worried. I was like, oh no.
So then you put, okay, I see what you're saying. So then you put degreaser all over the ground.
Yeah,
to
put a
clean
little
it,
water
and
and
then you
scrubbed
realized
it.
that was good for drifting
And yeah,
environment.
oh my gosh, you can like drift so well on degreaser.
Well, degreaser mixed with oil
Yeah.
on a smooth concrete
You can
floor.
slick around pretty
man.
quickly. But-
I thought it smelled a little weird in here. I got home yesterday at noon after driving for 26 hours nonstop. We didn't have to do that. We just got to like.
I was so surprised you texted like, okay, guys, we'll be home in 4 hours. I was like, holy devil.
Yeah.
So you know how you get like you're on a road trip and you have like a coffee in the afternoon, and then it starts getting dark and you're just like, man, this is kind of nice. Like, why do I even want to stop?
No traffic.
Yeah. So we went through Salt Lake at like midnight, and we're like, we could stop here, but we're all still awake. And then there's nowhere worth stopping between Salt Lake and basically
no.
home, except Missoula, which is only like 4 hours. And at that point, you might as well. So we just got to that point where we're like, well, I guess we'll just drive straight through. So we did. But yeah, and I did have the opportunity to sleep. I didn't drive the whole way, but I never did actually sleep. So yeah, I got here after driving for 26 hours. I came into the shop and I was like, smells kind of weird in
It
here.
smells like 2 Yeti bottles worth of oil on the floor.
yeah. And then I saw the little pink ATV here, which I already knew that was
Yeah.
going to be there, but I just saw it peeing on the floor, just slowly leaking its lifeblood out. I was like, nice, I'll deal with that tomorrow.
Well, on that note, we're all out of sparkling waters, and we still don't have a sparkling water sponsorship. So,
Come on, man.
you know, DM your favorite sparkling water and tell them to hit up the Sent and Bent boys. Our emails in all of our descriptions.
Are we still doing wise words with Will?
Oh, yes.
I didn't really think about
Let's
this
go.
one.
And the whole point, dude.
The mustache removal.
Yeah,
Let's
so-
do that first. Get it out of the way. I know my girlfriend's been wanting my mustache
You didn't
gone.
even leave this up to trial, man.
Well, my girlfriend wants my mustache gone.
Wait, that's funny because she messaged me at first and she's like, protect Will's mustache at all costs.
Yeah.
So what changed?
I don't know. Like, in the past
she
couple of
probably
days.
got kissed and was like, ugh.
Yeah, she's like, I want that mustache gone. And she was like telling, like, I think she wanted the people to take my mustache out, and I think that's why she took a picture of me in the first place.
So quick recap if you didn't listen to the last podcast. Will has the mustache of responsibility because he's trying to be more responsible, and he has been, but he did something very irresponsible. He drove his R1 without his suit, which he said he never would. We have photographic evidence on Instagram, and surprisingly, the Instagram poll was like 51% you get to keep the mustache.
Yep.
Also, I don't think they were listening with audio for the part of you describing why.
Yeah.
I think they just said, oh, should Will keep his mustache? And they said yes. But still only 1% won that. On YouTube, you had like 10,000 more people say that was irresponsible than said that you get
Those
to keep your
people on the
mustache.
YouTube are so craft. They want my mustache gone so badly.
Yeah.
So
So I think the unanimous vote is
the mustache
it's gone.
gone.
So
yeah. I don't have I can't really see my mustache, so.
well, you
Just
can
do your best, and then we'll get a mirror after.
yeah,
the
you can
podcast is
finesse
over.
it later, but
This
here
is
it goes.
intimidating.
You want to zip up your shirt so it doesn't get in your
You should have told him to unzip it. That would have been funnier.
oh. Is that how you shave
Have you ever used one of these before?
No, I usually just use a normal razor like a normal person. How do you
it
use
needs
this?
to be like this way?
Yeah, and then you go up.
no,
I've
I
never-
can feel the responsibility bleeding out.
I have never shaved another man's mustache. That was weird.
I've never seen anyone shave their mustache of responsibility on a podcast before.
Neither have I. I'm not
Actually
good.
doing really good, man.
Well, I
That's-
live with this mustache every day, so I
That's
kind of know
nice.
where it is.
You could just take out your phone and put it on selfie mode for the rest.
Well, to
But-
really get it gone, you're going to need like an actual shaver, not just a trimmer. So
Oh, I'm bald.
That was pretty good. I say you're good.
good enough for the.
Oh, that thing tickles, but it is kind of fun.
Wait, you have actually never used one of those?
No,
How do you shave?
just with like a normal razor. Like,
Oh, I guess you
Done.
normally don't have that much
Yeah.
facial hair.
Yeah,
See,
you don't
if
really
grow a
need
neck
one at-
beard
yeah.
like
That
this
is like
every
for a
3 days,
beard.
You just gotta,
mine's like every
Bend it.
3 years I get a chance to grow one of these out. But
All right. So starting today, you're going to be responsible.
yeah, pretty much.
Which driving your R1 with a helmet that you've crashed on that's cracked is not responsible, by the way.
Yeah, but I know it's not responsible, but I had to go out and do it. So I put my suit
That's
on.
not how that works, Will.
But I put my suit on, boots on, gloves on, and my helmet.
Yeah.
So
So what is unwise words with Will? Because you just lost. Day one of responsibility mustache. What is wise words with Will?
if you're gonna do something irresponsible, don't let people take photos of you. Keep it on the down low. If you're gonna do something irresponsible, keep it on the down low and don't let people know that you're doing it.
All right. So your first day of being responsible is to give people words of being irresponsible.
No, if you want to get away with something and you have a luscious mustache, don't let them know.
So what it will that's not wise word. I think we need to like rename this
Yeah.
because that was just Will
That was-
telling everybody to lie.
That was reckless rants with Will.
I wasn't
Reckless
saying
rants.
I wasn't saying lie. I was just saying
you were.
All right, that's the Sandpoint podcast. Thanks for watching, guys. We're wherever you listen to podcasts, and if you send us a 5-star review, screenshot it, send it to us on Instagram. We'll hit you up with a voice message. Someone asked for Will's best. Whoa! So let's go hit that right now.
whoa.
We're gonna send it to him on Instagram.
Oh.
Nice.